right, good evening. We're going to call to order the Tuesday, October 15th meeting of the Corte Madera Town Council. Please, can we have a roll call?
Councilmember Casissa.
Here.
Councilmember Lee.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ravazio.
Yes.
Mayor Beckman.
Here, thank you. Please join me in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Sorry, jump that cherry. We're going to have open time for public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any items that are not on tonight's agenda. Members of the public will be given 3 minutes apiece. If you are with us via Zoom and would like to make public comment for open time, please go ahead and raise your hand and we will bring you online to make your public comment. We do not have any in-person public comment in the council chamber tonight. Do we have any hands up on Zoom?
No hands raised on Zoom and no emailed public comment for this item.
Okay, thank you. So we will close open time. We have no presentations tonight. We'll move on to the consent calendar. These are items that are routine or have been previously discussed and do not require further discussion. Any member of the council or public may pull a consent calendar item for discussion. Would any council members like to pull a consent calendar item? Seeing none, we'll open this up for the public. If any members of the public would like to pull a consent calendar item for discussion, if you're with us on Zoom, please go ahead and raise your hand. We have nobody in person tonight wanting to pull a consent calendar item. Do you have any hands up on Zoom?
No hands raised on Zoom and no emailed public comment for any of the consent items.
Thank you. So we will bring the consent calendar back to the council for a motion.
I'll go and make the motion to move the consent calendar.
Second it.
Councilmember Casissa.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ravazio.
Yes.
Mayor Beckman.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Great, thank you. We have no public hearings tonight. We'll move on to our business items, the first of which is 6A, discussion and consideration for creating a field supervisor classification, and I will turn it over to staff.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Beckman and members of the council. Today, we're discussing the potential to bring back a field supervisor classification. And with me, I want to introduce Wes Sichler. He's our superintendent of public works. He'll be assisting me through the next couple items, but just first want to say we're very lucky to have Wes doing the superintendent for our public works team. He's got a tremendous amount of experience, 30 plus years when it comes to pump stations and sewer in particular. He knows as much as just about anyone in this role. So we're in good hands. He'll help us handle anything that Mother Nature throws at us to the best that, I think anyone can in his capacity. So with that, the position itself was eliminated in 2010. That was kind of a time where the economy took a downturn and there was, I think, a little bit of consolidation of kind of the ladder within public works. But, given, our public works team is very busy and we take on, obviously duties on both sanitary district and town side. There is, we believe, local town benefit to having this role, which kind of will be the lead in acting as an intermediary between Wes and Nick Barrio, our superintendent and assistant superintendent, and the field crews, looking to promote from within someone who really knows the way that Wes and the management team want things done, and to just improve overall quality control and quality assurance. And so this would not require adding a new position. Actually would take our prior assistant superintendent position and then underfill it. So no impact to the current year budget. And I don't know, Wes, you want to add anything about how you think this will benefit the overall crew?
Evening, guys. How you doing? I think this is going to be a big difference for us because as we get busier and busier and things are going on, it's nice to have somebody out in the field who has eyes and ears on the crew, where if something comes up, I don't have to drop what I'm doing. Nick doesn't have to drop what he's doing to go out there and to figure out a problem. His job would be out there figuring out problems, relaying the information to us and coming up with the plan. A lot of times too is after hours work, especially in the winter times. I need somebody here who I can trust and one person is in charge. Sometimes, you get a crew out there and everybody wants to be the boss, and I'm getting phone calls from 3 different people saying, "Oh, we should do this, we should do this, blah, blah, blah." This way, be one person talking to me, dealing with it. So I think it would be a big benefit for us.
Yeah, and I think it just like just kind of rephrasing what Wes said, it allows him and Nick to do higher level work, and then I guess in a way this is a minor savings in budget given we're underfilling, but it also gives promotion within the team, which just promotes overall vertical trajectory and development. So I think those are also good things to mention. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, RJ. Thank you, Wes. We'll take questions from the council. We'll start down here. Any questions? No questions? No questions?
This is maybe you're not there yet. But since I heard you mention the after hours aspect of the role, is there a desire to hire someone fairly local for this, pretty close?
That's if it ends up working out that way, that's a bonus, but it won't be the criteria that we, pick and choose this person. It'll be more on, the overall experience, skills, and ability. But the idea is, we call it our duty guy or on-call guy, and that rotates with the crew. And the reality is some guys have 10 plus, 15 years plus experience doing that. Other people are on their first year. And so, to Wes's point, having this added layer just provides another layer of QC as things happen. And also, kind of helps get away from the too many chefs in the kitchen. So I anticipate at least one or multiple candidates will be from the local area. Out of those that I believe are qualified. So I think there's a chance it works out that way, but it won't be the basis for the hire.
Okay, thank you.
Charles, any questions? I just have a clarifying question. It says in the staff report that this position is anticipated to be an internal promotion, but now we're talking about a broader pool of hires from the general area. So I'm just wanted to understand, are we planning on hiring are we planning on hiring additional personnel that we do not currently have with us and increasing our overall staffing level, or are we planning on basically reassigning existing staff to this new role?
Yeah, so this role we would do as a promotional opportunity, and there's not a handful, but at least 3 people in-house that we anticipate may are qualified and may interview for it. And then broader, as part of our wider organizational structure, we actually do have one position left that we will fill later on in the year that's already budgeted and approved, and that would be likely just a senior or regular maintenance worker.
Okay, so is the idea that if we promote one of those 3 candidates into this new role that we're considering creating, we would then backfill that with a new hire?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank
Yeah.
you. Any other questions from council members? All right, we'll open this up for public comment. Any members of the public who would like to comment, if you are with us via Zoom, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll bring you on. We don't have any in-person public comment tonight. Do we have any hands up on Zoom or emails in, Lorena?
No hands raised on Zoom and no emailed public comment on this item.
Great, thank you. So we'll close public comment and bring this item back to the council for discussion and a possible motion. Actually, I think no motion, since this is the introduction of a 2-meeting item.
That's
Any
correct.
additional comments from council members? We'll start on the left this time. No comments. Any further thoughts?
I just that I think it's a great idea to create internal pathways to promotion. So I think I support it.
Ditto.
And I would just like to say, while Wes is here, that Public Works did an amazing job for the town last weekend on Friday and Saturday. 4 guys each shift, and they were all great. They went above and beyond the call. It was really hot. We bought misters and we wanted them installed and all kinds of crazy things, and they did it all, and they were great. So good time to ask for anything you want.
Great. Thank you, Fred.
No, I'm good. I can support. I think if it helps Wes and Nick out, helps you guys focus more on what you guys need to do, I think it's a great thing. So I'm all for it.
Excellent. No vote on this, correct, Amy? Excellent. All right. Thank you very much. We will move on to item 6B, which is consideration and possible action to waive the competitive bidding process and award a 3-year landscaping contract to Flores Builders for between $451,000 and $478,000. And I will turn it over to staff.
Great, thank you. So this item is been one that's been reoccurring year to year for presumably 18 plus years. The town has relied on outside contracting services primarily to focus on landscaping efforts and other supplementary needs. And a couple things have happened in the last year that brought this forth as a potential 3-year proposal is, trying to align with how we're handling our own staffing. So, our town manager did a great job of kind of analyzing the cost of living and really connecting that to our own staff. And we believe a lot of those, that analysis still applies to these crews that are also predominantly local. The other thing is we did receive some initial correspondence and were met with the owner of Flores Builders about just overall hardships. I think they were brought in around 2018-19 when there was a previous company just had some kind of overall bad management styles. And so this Flores Builder came in to kind of help keep the same guys we had here, but obviously as a different company name. And I think ultimately ended up with a labor agreement that we've kind of been just putting a little bit on each year, but not realizing all of the intricacies. We sat down with him and, in reality, it's, it was a pretty lean and under market agreement, and often, and in some ways, some of the things like the work truck really weren't accounted for. So we've done some more analysis and want to present that tonight to kind of help you understand kind of what Flores team does on an annual basis or a daily basis, and then also understand kind of where their rates stack up amongst some of the competitors. So the first slide is this pie chart, and the predominant one is the blue one, which shows general landscaping beautification. Wes, you want to talk about kind of the typical day and even get into the specifics of like how many times they're mowing each week and that stuff.
Typical day for them is cleaning all the parks. We have 4 that show up every single day, and they clean the parks. Then they proceed to go into the parks, trim, mow the grasses, trim the planters, the islands. Also, they also help maintain some of the hanging baskets and everything else. They are a vital part of our success here. Without them, I don't think this town would not look the way it is. We just don't have the manpower to do everything that we need to do. But I mean, they also in the wintertime, they're out there with us doing storm patrol. And now helping us in the summertime doing weed protection and fuel management and everything else. So they're quite busy.
Yeah, so I think I think some of the other folks that have been here long can really speak to this. more accurately, but what I've kind of seen in my tenure is that, you know, we are a town that kind of adds on. So first, you know, when I came on in 2018, it was really this Measure C and push to do more fuel reduction. And so that added, you know, to the overall scope. And that's makes up roughly about $40,000 a year of their overall time, 10%. So that was kind of new in that, 2018, 2019. More recently, it's, and some of these community events have been on for a long time, but they, every year they support those. We also have things like the sports field enhancement, right? Where we've, instead of aerating once a year, we're aerating,
About 3 times a year.
3 times. But we're seeding and fertilizing like
6 times a year.
6 times a year. So it's really that team that ends up taking those tasks on for us. And so we've kind of, when we talk about the budgets on those things, it really does go to increase their contract. As Wes mentioned, storm response is vital. If everyone is here and working, we have a maximum of seven. And obviously, if you're talking about storms that last more than 8 hours, you have to break them up into shifts. So then, you'd have 3 or 4 people if you're working, a 16-hour storm, best case scenario. And so this is where now we have access to, at a minimum, 4 people that, know the town well, just as well as our guys do, and can get in there and support and do a lot of the same things that our guys do. And, just under a different company name. So separately, they do support some other bigger efforts. So twice a year we do gate maintenance. So all of our flood control gates get cleaned out and maintained. That's a 2-week effort twice a year, and that involves six extra guys on top of the 4, because it's a big push all in a tight amount of time. They're scraping barnacles off of gates and, pulling out silt from all of our sumps and doing all this,
But still maintaining everything.
yeah.
The mowing, the weeding, and everything,
Yeah.
sanitation, everything else that we're trying to keep up with.
So that, yeah, on top of the typical duties. And the last one I'll mention is just catch basin cleaning. So every single catch basin in town around this time of year or September, it takes about 30 days, right? And they clear out every single one. So all the leaves that fell over the last 6 months or silt that built up all get cleaned out over that month period ahead of the rain. So, if we weren't relying on these dedicated extra people, we'd have to really try to bid this work and actually design it and bid it and kind of make that functional. But these guys are pretty seamless. So that's a little bit about how their time is spent over an annual basis. And then go to the next slide. And the other thing I wanted to show, they obviously have to follow all the California DAR and workers' comp and all of those other things. I would say it's not usually something that we get to this level of detail, but I think it's important to kind of show to really understand the story a bit. But so I've gotten some comparison numbers. So I got contractor A, B, and C, which were given from some contractors that County Parks uses. And then also we have our full-time staff member costs, and then and that's based on a step 3, so the middle position. And then we have the Flores contract. So, I was out of this upcoming year, we're projecting at a 4% increase of $40.31 hourly rate. That's just under $23 for the workers themselves, and then the rest goes to pay all those required taxes and workers' comp and everything. That $2.45 overhead was just a vehicle spread out, one vehicle spread out by 4 guys. And then obviously looking at our team, who also does a great job, but the reality is we do have a lot more in the benefits and kind of overall overhead and everything that goes with it. And so it's, you know, even for a step 3 maintenance worker, it's about double. And then as we go to these landscape contractors, they were, I think the lowest was $70. And then we have 98 and 105. So that's kind of their own kind of all built in number. So, you know, that is what we would likely expect if we were to open this up. Maybe there's potential for some, you know, efficiencies perhaps, but I don't know. I wouldn't bank on that. I mean, I've just seen these guys work, and maybe Wes can speak to that.
Like I said, 3 of these guys have been here for 16 plus years. I think Juan has been here for almost 25 years. We heavily rely on them. They know the town. You can tell them, hey, go do this. They can do that. Bring another contractor in. It's training them what to do, where to do it. Middle of the storm, like, hey, go to Sausalito, the catch basin up on the hill. These guys know where it is. Bring somebody else in, they're not going to have an idea of where to go, how to do it, which means that we're going to have to train them in the middle of a storm, which would make us run very thin. So, I mean, these guys are a vital part of our crew. We consider them our crew.
So, yeah, so that's just kind of some data points on, you know, and I know in years past we haven't done as a comprehensive job and of explaining kind of all the things that happen with this. And so thank you in the past for kind of trusting us at our word, but thought it was worth, given the 3-year contract, of showing a little more. And obviously we're here to answer questions as well.
Thanks, RJ. We'll take questions from council members. We'll start with Charles. Any question? No questions? Rosa, any questions? Any questions, Pat?
Just one quick one, where it says amount not to exceed. Can you explain sort of how that works? Do they keep track of their time through the year? And if there's fewer storms and our costs would go down, but if they are beyond that, then they don't get any more than that amount, right?
So yeah, the way, you know, we have to approximate, right? We can't predict the storms. It could be a light year or heavy year, but we can predict a lot of else of the other work. I mean, we can count on 4 guys just about every day showing up and doing general landscaping maintenance. And so actually on the current year, we're under the not to exceed 415K. So any savings will go back to the budget. If we were to go over, I know this probably hasn't happened every year in the past, we would either come back to the board and say, hey, or, you know, the council and say, hey, you know, we're running out of budget. Can you extend it? Are you, you know, this was a really bad winter year and we need more budget. So.
If I can just add a little bit to that, Councilmember Ravazio, I think we've just fiscal year 20, it's actually not by fiscal year. So the last contract that the council approved was from October 1st, 2023 to this October, well, September 30th, 2024. That was approved for $425,000. And this year it was, expenditures were $403,000. So it does allow that flexibility on an hourly basis as needed to have the team. It's not a set amount. If it's going to be less work, we can manage that. We can come in on budget again. Like there are some savings there. I think that's an advantage as well. This structure that we have.
Yeah, and you know, we've had years where, for whatever reason, 2 people move on and we're shorthanded, right? And so that's gives us the flexibility to use them a little more and kind of help us get through the same demands that our town would have. The other thing that I forgot to mention that I want to mention now is in looking at that original contract, and I don't know if it was, I don't really know why it was kind of bulked in there. There was this vehicle and tools kind of bulked into it, and really, if you talk to the owner, that he just eats all the truck and maintenance costs. And if you look at the actual rate, you can see there's really no margin to fund much outside of it. I'm not a expert in payroll, but I mean, $17 worth of funds that aren't going to the employee is only going to fund so much outside of benefits. So we did add that we would come up with a way to provide or reimburse the truck, because I don't actually think it was, even though the contract prior said it, I really don't think it was actually being paid for properly like he would. And then the other thing is, by the owner's estimation, he was saying he didn't know if he could continue to go on, because in order to be able to pay these guys on a more normal cycle, like I don't know if it's every week or every other week, and we only had been paying them once a month per the contract. So he had to have $50,000 in reserve of his own funds just to be able to cash flow his guys' own paychecks. And so as soon as we heard that, we, Adam, Daria, and I, jumped and we worked with Daria, and we're doing it already at 2 weeks, but we want to formalize that in here. And then the second one is, he's like, yeah, I think it's like, and this is his approximation, take it for what it is, he says he only makes like $280 per invoice as the one who's the company owner who's taking risk and putting its company on the line. So that's also why we added the $750 just administration fee for invoicing. And, because legitimately someone's got to invoice it, someone's got to tally the hours, and someone's got to pay the payroll. So, I think we've had a conversation. We know that he'll, this will definitely help tremendously. And I think feels good about, at least the next 3 years at this scale with the COLAs that we've built in. But, the reality is, I think when he originally signed some of these contracts, he just didn't exactly know all of the costs that were coming with it. So. Yeah.
Thank you. Fred, any questions?
Yeah, just, all this is being paid. I missed the green part of it. All this is being paid out of the general fund, correct?
Daria can answer that better. Yeah.
The staff report says that's going to be paid by the town's general fund.
Okay. Sorry, that was my mistake then.
The weed abatement for the fire is paid out of the Corte Madera sales tax fund. And a small amount is sometimes paid out of the recreation fund.
Okay.
But the bulk of it is paid for.
Okay, so this is just misstated then in the staff report? Okay, and then the 9,000 extra we're paying a year for the admin fee, is that coming out of the general fund also?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the rental truck, how much is that? Rental truck equipment, all that stuff, how much does that cost?
So we may have a vehicle, and we got to make sure we're not adding liability to our plate, where we can, we had a vehicle that we were probably going to move off of, but we might be able to allocate to them. Otherwise, the worst case is we would pay a rental company, and I looked it up today, and $1,700 a month is the going rate for a monthly pickup truck rental.
I do the math in my head, it's another 20 grand almost. And that would come out of the general fund also.
Yeah, or we, like I said, it wouldn't, or operating. If we do, maybe Daria can say, if we provide the truck, we would just do the maintenance and they'd use the truck. And so it would probably come out of operating.
Okay. And then on the chart you had with the rate comparison, the contractors A and B, do you know who those are?
I do. I just didn't, I can tell you if you want to know the three. One was Sonoma Moran. Sorry.
Hey, let me rephrase it. Are they local?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I'll save you time on that.
Yeah.
And then one question for Adam. If I can remember when we approved this contract the last time, I thought we put in a control where anything over 350, you guys were supposed to come back to us.
Yes, and we did have that on a consent item and a staff report in, I think it was August or September meeting. And so that was
Okay.
included and we did.
Okay, all right, thanks. I just want to make sure.
Absolutely.
And then one other thing is on the rate comparison also, you're showing floors at $22 and some odd cents an hour.
Mhm.
When I look at the agreement says through like September or whatever, it's more like almost $38.
Sorry. So based on,
It says per worker.
so they we'll confirm.
I'm just trying to get, I just want to make sure the numbers align.
Yeah, I think last year was 3640, I want to say, and then we're upping it by 4%. So, oops.
Lorena, could you bring the
So
rate comparison?
yeah, so here's what it is. If you take out the $2.45, which is the truck, you would then get $37.86.
So the 22 isn't 22, it's more like 37, right? Again, I was looking for clarification.
Their take home is still under $23. It's $22.88. Let me make sure I understand.
That's fine. Don't
So
worry
yeah,
about
if
it.
you take so that over, because I was trying to compare apples to apples, I did fold in the cost of the truck at $2.45 per hour across the year. That way we could get as close to apples when we're comparing the other companies that fold that in. But if you look at the contract itself, it won't show the $2.45. It'll show it as $40.31 minus the truck, which is $2.45. And then that goes up 3% next year and 3% the following year.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have a couple questions here. RJ, part of the recommended action is waiving the competitive bid process for this contract. When is the last time that we did a competitive bid on our landscape maintenance contract?
I think 18 years.
Okay. And Lorena, could you please bring that slide back up, please? Thank you. I want to ask, so you mentioned that there were 3 other contractors that you looked at. Only 2 are listed on this comparison here, I believe. So if we look at the fully weighted
Sorry.
hourly rates here.
Sorry, I have one more that got cut off, but it's landscape contractor C, $70 an hour. So one of them is Forrester and Kroger, which is the previous outfit that these guys were under. And without getting specifics, there were some poor management going on. And
Yeah.
so, and then the other one of them is All-Star Tree and Landscaping. And then the third is, I think, Sonoma Marin Landscaping.
Yeah. Okay. Just the from like a public process, and perception of transparency point of view, it's a little problematic that that one of our 3 comparators is missing from what we've got here, and that it's the cheapest. That's, I think, an important data point. Obviously, Flores is still much cheaper at a fully weighted hourly rate than 70. But I think the fact that our third comparator is actually less hourly than our step 3 maintenance workers, I just think that's an important data point. I think those are my only questions now are really just what, when was this last bid? So it sounds like 18 years, and then who are our 3? So you've answered that. Thank you. I'll have more discussion, but those are my only questions.
And potentially it's never been bid. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions from council members?
I just have one follow-up question. On the landscaper contracts that you guys went out to, is it all apples to apples? In other words, what we're asking Flores to do, we're comparing the same thing across all the lines.
This is just the hourly rate that they charge. So the only part that is an apples to apples, if you think these companies can do it in less time.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah.
Note too, says some of these other contractors may not do storm patrol.
Yeah.
Or it's like gates, maintenance and stuff like that, other stuff that Forest does. It may say, no, that's not in our field.
Got it. Thank you, Wes.
I had sort of more, maybe a question for our town attorney. So for this type of contract and maintenance contract, are we obligated to bid it out like we would be for like capital improvements or something like that?
It's a good question. And I don't know that I know the answer off the top of my head. With Public Works, there are state law requirements. In our municipal code, we've done some light competitive bidding requirements for professional services contracts over 75,000. This is what you would call a general services and maintenance contract. And I just haven't looked at the public contracts code recently enough to know. My guess is it's probably not required, although they have recently expanded the definition of public works pretty broadly. So I just don't know if this work would be included in it. I think probably not, but I'd have to research and get back to you.
Okay. I just wanted to know what we needed to do.
Great, thank you. All right, if there's no other questions from council members, we're going to open this up to public comment. We have no in-person public comment, but if you're with us on Zoom and would like to make public comment, you can shoot us an email or go ahead and raise your hand. We'll bring you online here. Do we have any hands raised or emails in on this item, Lorena?
No hands raised, but we did receive an emailed public comment from Patty Stoliers asking, is there a law for independent contractors that they provide their own tools? Isn't that one of the test questions? Or is it an independent contractor or an employee? That's the way the comment was written.
Okay.
And that's the only thing we received for this item.
Okay, thank you. So seeing no further public comment, we will close public comment. And if any member of staff is able to speak at all to that question, that would be helpful.
Sure, I can speak to that. So, yeah, they do provide a lot of their own equipment. And the prior contract did have them providing a truck, but if you actually follow the numbers, you'll see it really wasn't accounted for. And so I think it was just eating at whatever slim margin they already had. But they do provide their own hand tools and stuff. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. All right. So that was public comment. We're going to have discussion on this item now. We'll start on my right. Fred?
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed, I'm being honest. Floors, I think, does great work, so it's not about their work. I think Eli touched upon this. I'm a little bit worried about the competitive bidding process. Unless Amy can, I know she's trying to research it now, get clarification, because I wouldn't want us to vote on something if we did approve it and then find out later that it should have gone to competitive bidding. So I'm just, right now, I think I'm in that quandary. The other thing is, I'm not hot on giving them COLA, and I'm not hot on giving them admin fees. I think we're setting a precedent going towards the future. I don't know how that affects other independent contractors, and not to pick on her, but like Amy's law firm, they could come back next year and they can go, hey, we want a 3-year contract. We want a cost of living increase, and we want our admin fees paid. And the admin fee to me doesn't make sense to a certain degree, because we're paying somebody a fee for them to bill us. And our independent auditors, there's others. I don't know if we're opening the door for other contractors. So right now, I'm again, not to knock floors, because again, they do great work. I'm just on the fence with, I want to say, those issues.
Sounds good, Fred. Thank you.
Yeah, wondering if we can pass it with a contingency that only if it's legal for us to do that. And if it's not, then we come back and revisit it.
Thank you,
So
Pat.
it does say we can terminate at any time. So that is always an option.
Thank you. Rosa?
My inclination is that if it isn't broke, don't break it. And it sounds like this is a really good relationship that has stood the test of time. And the time that it would take to teach them how to be, Corte Madera's team. It just seems like redundancy. However, once again, just wanting to make sure that it is legal and that we are doing it by the book. But my overall view is that the town does look amazing. And it sounds like this is a really good relationship. And because, one of the things about being a small town is that you can make decisions within, certainly within the law, but you can make decisions based on relationships. And if we can do that, if we can continue this relationship simply, then I'm in support of that.
Thank you, Rosa. Charles?
Yeah, I'm sure as we negotiate and actually finalize the contract that any kind of legality would be researched by Amy and in her group. So I'm not so concerned about that. And the numbers, we're getting a stellar deal. And that's part of the reason that in some ways we're looking to try to make it more fair and equitable to this group of people who have served our community, right? Like, so that we can maintain and keep them, right? Definitely I see, this really isn't just landscapers at this point, that the way that they're helping the town, it's a much more diverse kind of contract. So I think, if we were a larger municipality and this was a substantial sized contract and it really was about equity of allowing multiple large companies, employers access to tax dollars, that would be one thing, but we're a smaller municipality. And, while we're not, going broke, we're also trying to manage every dollar we have. And so I think the contract's in our best interest to approve as it is. And then I can also understand the additional cost because we have had expectations with the Parks and Rec and, cleanliness, and it's the medians have more flowers and are growing and more beautiful now that we can water them, right? Like, I think they're doing a great job. So I think that's the other reason we might want to consider it, is if we didn't think we were getting value on the dollar. But I think we are. So I'm in support of it.
Sounds good. Thank you. I'll share my thoughts. I think moving to a 3-year contract is the right move. I think it gives us budgeting certainty and it gives Flores certainty in terms of their income. I think the increases that they requested are reasonable. As far as the COLA goes, I don't really look at that as COLA. I look at it more as inflation. And the truth is the cost of running a business goes up every year. I don't see offering them a reasonable 4.33 increase over the next 3 years as being any different than what the status quo is, which is they come with a new contract every year and it's bigger than the last year's contract. And I would note, I think by more than 3 or 4%. So if anything, I would see this as hopefully locking us in to lower rate increases. I'm fine with the admin cost. I totally understand what RJ is saying about this is a contract that kind of grew out of what used to be a very ad hoc relationship. And maybe they didn't fully understand the costs that were going to be associated with scaling this relationship. That's fine. It makes perfect sense. I think it's reasonable. So I don't have any questions about any of the costs here, nor do I have any questions about Flores' work. I think it's clear, we've got a good thing going with Flores. They do a great job. Everybody in town loves them. It's clear that they operate as really a partner and an extension of our public works maintenance team. So I have no question about Flores' work or their general integrity. I do have serious reservations about waiving the bidding process here. And just to be frank with you, I came into this feeling uncomfortable about this. And then just during tonight's meeting, I realized these are not $450,000 contracts. This is one $1.4 million contract. So that is a very substantial contract. I mean, that's on the scale of our one big roadwork project a year. That's huge. And just being frank, I don't feel comfortable waiving the bidding process on a $1.4 million contract. I would fully hope and expect that if we do bid this out competitively, Flores will come back the most competitive bidder here, especially based on what we saw tonight. I would also feel comfortable if in presenting their analysis of the bids, if you guys wanted to add in, hey, we're going to kind of ding other contractors for training that they would need to go through, because I think the point that you make that Flores doesn't need training is absolutely valid. And I think that that's a credit to them, and that's a value that we need to take into account when we're considering bids here. But I don't think that I can vote to award a $1.4 million contract without a competitive bid for something that has never been bid. And again, no questions about any of the integrity of the team that put this together or Flores. I'm just thinking, from the perspective of a member of the public who's not familiar with any of this, it just doesn't look right. So that's where I'm at on this. Any other thoughts for council members?
I can support that, by the way. And I agree with you. I think we should go to a competitive bidding process. Because you're right. Instead of looking at it on a year by year basis, if you take all 3 years, it's a chunk of money, like a really chunk of money. And you could have, through the bidding process, you could even adjust it to the point that you mentioned before. Some of these contractors may not do storm work. They may not do something else. So you can always, how to figure that. You could figure that into the process. But I agree with you. I don't feel comfortable either with just approving this the way it is.
So my concern is that if we get a lower bid, we're kind of required to take it. And doesn't sound to me like a landscape firm could come in and do what Flores does, especially the storm work. So, I mean, I don't feel uncomfortable going ahead with things as they are, provided it is legal for us to do so. But if we do have to go ahead with a competitive bidding process, I want to make sure that we don't get stuck having to switch to somebody who is inferior.
I'm sorry, just question along those lines. You would adjust the bidding. In other words, I think I mentioned before, if if Flores goes, hey, we do storm drain work, but another contractor doesn't. Yeah. This one may be lower, but you're going to have to adjust that for that work that they don't do.
Let's pause to hear from Amy in case she answers any of our questions right now.
So, Mayor, council members, so my initial research suggests that landscaping is not considered a public work, which would subject it to the Public Works Code. Obviously, I would dig a little deeper before I would say that absolutely. If it is a public works project, then yes, you take the low bid. However, in your request for bids, you would definitely itemize all the work that needs to be done, so that if someone bid and they're not capable of doing that work, they would not be a responsive bidder and they'd be eliminated. If you're not subject to a low bid, then it's more like a request for professional services where you can look at experience and qualifications and other things that aren't strictly price related. And so we'd need to dig a little deeper to make sure we knew which we were doing. But regardless, the specs that we put out would ensure that whoever bids on it can provide each of the services that the town needs. And so, with RJ leading that, I would feel very comfortable that he knows exactly what needs to be done. And so that if someone responded and couldn't meet one of those services, they would not be a responsive bidder.
And I would just add, or maybe just rephrase it in the way that I was thinking of it, to Pat's very valid concern. I think we would not just want to blindly go with whatever the lowest number is. We would want to go with whatever the best value to our taxpayer is. And so it has to be a contractor that can perform all the services that we need. And I think the truth is, right, if you put this out to bid and it turns out that Flores is the only one out there who can actually do all this stuff, then great, case closed. But I just think it's really public process and public perception that is what worries me here. I just want to make sure that we're doing this right. And I don't expect that we're going to get a different answer than the Flores contract. And in fact, I'm happy about that because I love Flores. I think they do a great job, but it's important to me, I think, that we do this the right way. Yeah.
Mayor, can I speak to that? Because there is there's different political philosophies on that, right? We are elected by the people to steward the dollars, and staff is bringing it to us to consider and make decisions so that we don't overspend on basically going out to, it's going to take a lot of staff time and effort and probably cost to do the public bid. And the public works director is saying he doesn't think that we're going to gain value to the town by doing that, right? And that's why he's brought it as a staff report to us. And I understand your idea of, wanting to liberalize it and basically make it kind of almost a democratic opening, but there's also risk in that, right? In truth, especially at that price point, where you don't necessarily need that even over 3 years, because it's been 18 years and it hasn't come up. And so, while I hear you, I still feel like there is a process of basically 5 people voted to represent that are still helping the staff make that decision.
Mhm.
I don't think you need to open it up to a bidding to be free and open about that discussion and decision making and still represent the people, right?
Yeah, understood. And I think your point about there being different philosophies on this is well made and well taken. I think the philosophy that you described is absolutely valid. But I just speaking for myself personally, I don't feel comfortable awarding a $1.4 million contract for something that's never been bid in 18 years. And to the question of legality, like to me, it's almost besides the point, because I would say just because you can doesn't mean you should. And to my mind personally, this is an instance where we probably should not. But that's just me. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, one question, if I could. So if we decided that we really need to do the bidding process, how does that affect your timing? Because the contract already expired in October. So what would happen if we went that
Yeah,
route?
so a couple things. So it expired the end of September. We're proceeding on a sub $75,000 contract at the moment, which doesn't have all these other requirements. But at some point that $75,000 runs out and, we could be stuck. To actually bid something like this, the true technical answer is impossible, but you can get close kind of, because how do you specify you will provide 24/7 storm support for 5 months, but not say what day? I mean, it's going to be really iffy. And then, then it also hinders our team just on general stuff. Wes is going to have to go through each park and say, mow this on Mondays and Tuesdays, edge these areas this day. We got to specify what trees, how many trees, which trees. It's all got to be spelled out, because if it's a low bid environment, we're just going to get the minimum. So who establishes all that criteria? And because again, it's, this, added effort of storm support or urgent things come up and they're there for us. It's, it's going to be a long document, and we're gonna get as close as we can. But it's gonna fall short in some way or another, and our team's gonna have to pick it up. The other thing I just want to be honest about is we can't guarantee they will actually participate in the bid. It's just, I mean, I would encourage them to. I would try and talk them into it, but they may not want to do in competitive environment, because I mean, the owner was already saying that, he wants to do it for the people, but financially for him, it's not really worth it, which is why he was kind of coming to us in a different manner this time around. So, and then just look on a human level. I mean, these guys are, they enjoy working here. They, their heart's in Corte Madera. So, it would be sad for all of us that do work with them to have to let them go. But aside from, I mean, I understand legality if that comes into play, like we got to do what's right, but absent of some, illegality, those are all things that would definitely be disappointing if they went the wrong way. So
By just by approving this, we're not say like it's a contract value that we think we're comfortable expending. It's not really a approval of a contract in of itself. Right. So we're not personally liable as the council for approving it, like in its legality or illegality. Right. So, and I don't think staff would pursue it or move forward with it if it turns out that way. So I don't think that should be a consideration.
Has to be legal.
Absolutely. We're not going to, that would not be a consideration. We'll move forward, as you said, Councilmember Lee, with.
I have a question, which I'm sorry. I don't know if this helps or hinders. I mean, and I'm just going to throw this out there. What would happen if we gave them a 1-year contract and then next year we do the competitive bidding process for a 3-year contract? Because I don't know the timing. If you have to put out the competitive bid, are you looking at like 2 or 3 months to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just throwing that out.
Thank you, Fred. Pat
We need to-
had a question, I think.
So I'm just wondering, RJ, with all your knowledge of the companies that are around here and the work that they do, are there other companies who are interested in this work? Are you hearing from competitors that they think they can do this job for these kind of funds? Or are you really thinking that there isn't?
I mean, no one's come forward to say, hey, we want this contract at us. I mean, no one's really just voiced that in general. And if they did, they'd say, I want it, but I want it at 2x. That's the reality. I mean, so there is a risk also that, so A, this company drops out, or B, they actually sharpen their pencils and look at their numbers and go up. I think the odds of it going down are almost zero. But if it's about process and being fair, then, maybe they have a right to raise their rates to what is market. That would be in some ways on a human level plus. And just as a data point, I mean, so a lot of these workers' comp and taxes and all things, right? You can't get by that. That's what it is. And so when I look at this, to me, I just go, the take home's $22.88. You can't hire a day worker for under 25. And so, that's just, for me, there's no, again, just on a monetary standpoint, I know there's other factors. It doesn't get any less expensive. So,
Yeah. I think we've had a good discussion about this. Somebody can call the question if they want to. I think I'll just tell you, for me personally, if I was going to be able to vote to approve this tonight without bidding it out, I would have needed a much more robust, essentially market survey at the staff level. I think what we saw tonight, A, it wasn't in the staff report, so I hadn't seen it before tonight, neither had any of the public. And B, we only had 2 competitors on the slide. I guess there was a third who didn't make it onto the slide, but we didn't really have any kind of breakdown on, those right? Like we had breakouts of hourly overhead, so forth for the others. We didn't have that for the comparators. So there wasn't enough here tonight for me to feel comfortable voting to approve this. I'm sorry. Somebody's welcome to call the question if they want to vote.
Yeah. So I think it would be nice if we just kind of express how we want to feel, because I would like to bring it to a vote and I can stand behind it. I think if in a few years the town wants to put it on the work plan and do a competitive bid and really think about what it is and give it some time and understanding, I won't be on the council to move that forward. But I at least want to ask some of the others if we see that there might be a majority, just to move it forward.
Sure. Do you want to make a motion?
Well, I want to talk to the staff. I mean, I want to talk to the council first.
Sorry. Okay. Misunderstood.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Ready for me? Okay. So I would say that, to your point, that we are voted in to, they assume when they voted for us that we were reasonable people, that we could deliberate on these things. And I think that having Flores as our contractor for all these years fills in the need for due diligence, in the sense that they have been doing the job, they've been doing it well, they've been cooperating, they've been doing it possibly even at a loss. So there's a little bit of commitment and love there too. And so another, so there's that. The other thing is if you go on YouTube and you see how many views our meetings get, as I go on, sometimes there's like 22, sometimes there's 16. People want us to do our job. They don't, and I get this a lot from people in Corte Madera that they are happy as long as things are looking good, things are running well. They don't worry. And that's because they have voted in good and reasonable people. I think I'm not inclined to make this process any longer than it needs to be because the due diligence, we have proof of their many, many years of serving. So if there's nothing illegal about us doing this, then I am comfortable, voting for it now because, it's going to cost money for them to prepare the bid. And it sounds like they're already underpaid. So they may not, as RJ said, they may not even participate. So I think that as long as we keep it running well, we're doing what the public needs us to do and what they want us to do. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. If we're
And I'll go along with that too, just simplifying it to say, I don't want to jeopardize this relationship with Flores. So Fred's idea of doing a year and then looking at it again is a thought, but I feel strongly that, if we were to turn around right now and say, okay, we're going to go to bid, you're right. Flores is likely to say, okay, we're going to tell you what it's really going to cost. And it's going to end up being $60 an hour or $70 an hour. So there's an old saying in real estate that pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. And so I don't want to jeopardize it. I don't want to jeopardize the relationship. So I would like to continue.
So with that, I'll make a motion to pass 6B, which is the consideration of possible action to waive the competitive bid process requirements and authorize the town manager to enter into a 3-year agreement with Flores Builders.
And I'll second it.
Councilmember Casissa?
Yeah, I'm going to vote no, just for the reasons I think we need to go to competitive bidding. I think for me, I have a fiduciary responsibility to the public that plays into that. And I think that through this process, it needs to be fully documented through the competitive bidding process. And if you can get that in the written minutes, I would appreciate it. Thanks.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ravazio?
Yes.
Mayor Beckman?
no.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Alrighty, thank you. We're going to move on to item 6C, which is the selection of up to 2 council members to form an ad hoc advisory committee to provide recommendations regarding the proposed age-friendly center. And I will turn it over to staff.
Thank you.
Thank you, RJ. Thank you, Wes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So as I've reported at the last town council meeting and in previous closed sessions with the council, I think, as you know, I've been working closely with our staff, including our Public Works Director, Tim Berry, Parks and Rec Director, Amy Lyle, our Community Development Director, myself as well with Carla Condon, Patty Stolier, other age-friendly Corte Madera members, as well as with a commercial broker, Besa Baycam. And that our effort was to secure a lease at 100 Meadow Creek Drive for a new intergenerational center for the town. So this work has not only involved crafting conceptual plans for that space at 100 Meadow Creek Drive and sort of getting to a point where we were negotiating on a lease terms and a term sheet. But there's also been this parallel effort to further develop the center's vision, including how the center would operate, its programming, its staffing, its overall funding and costs associated with this center. As I've mentioned briefly during my town manager report at the last meeting, unfortunately, there's been some landlord concerns related to sufficient parking for the number of expected visitors to the intergenerational center at that location. And it's raised very varying levels of concern from our stakeholder group. And at this time, it's my recommendation, and I mentioned this again last time, that it's time to really pause, reevaluate our options that are available to the town for this project. So in short, I think we're hoping to deliver, the prior effort was really an effort to hope to deliver this center in a very streamlined way, very direct way. But given the need now to potentially pivot and consider other options, I think it really would be helpful for two council members to volunteer themselves to join with me and help me sort of move this effort forward to ensure momentum is sustained, and that also the effort that staff is giving to this project and the project goals, that it's expended in the right direction and efficiently. And so I just think we'll be able to accomplish more with a subcommittee, an ad hoc subcommittee of the town council and two council members to do this. The subcommittee can report back to the town council as a whole at regular intervals, of course, and also have some direct communication with our stakeholder team and the other stakeholders in the community who are involved in this project, and ultimately would make recommendations to the whole council about the best next steps to accomplish our goals with this effort. And so just to be one point of clarification, as I've been schooled here by Amy, thank you very much. It's always good to have Amy's comments on the Brown Act. And so just to be clear, the subcommittee would be just two members of the town council. There would not be additional members to the subcommittee. However, the subcommittee could obviously at our meetings invite other people to hear or to join such meetings and to communicate about the overall goals. And that would include our stakeholder groups, that age-friendly Corte Madera, the people that I've mentioned before that I've been working with in the past, and VESA as well. So, I just want to make it clear, this is sort of I think a good time to, as we consider other options, to change sort of how the decision-making is being done. And I just would appreciate working with two council members on that effort. So thank you. Happy to answer any questions that you may have about this item.
Great. Thank you, Adam. So we'll take any questions, or if council members want to volunteer for this subcommittee. We've got one hand from Fred, a second hand from Pat. Anyone? Okay, wonderful. Any questions or comments or anything? I think, I don't want to get into it too deep here, but I think we've got our subcommittee. We can certainly take public comment on this item. We do not have any in-person public comment, but if any members of the public would like to make comment via Zoom, please go ahead and raise your hand and we'll bring you on here.
We don't have any hands raised on Zoom, and we didn't receive any emailed public comment for this item.
Okay, thank you. So we'll close public comment. Thank you, Pat and Fred, for volunteering. Appreciate it. And that concludes item 6C here. We're going to move on to item 7, which is council reports, and we'll start with the town manager.
All right, just a couple of quick ones. I just want to mention on this Thursday at 6 p.m., there will be a public ADU workshop that our community development department is throwing. There will be free pizza. So please, hopefully that attracts some people to it. We'll have it cleaned up. Don't worry. But it's really about updating the community. We'll be hearing, and the council will be hearing about some updates to our ADU ordinance. So it's giving a preview of that ordinance and some of the provisions, or some of the changes that will be made to that ordinance. There's also, we're implementing and previewing an effort that will allow for pre-approved plans to be submitted on ADUs and submitted to the building department that are essentially pre-approved. So that is exciting to introduce that to the community, and then just promote some other resources that are available for homeowners that maybe want to do. Secondly, just a note, next Thursday and Friday is our annual Bay City's insurance risk pool strategic planning session. So I will be attending that. That is down in Monterey this year, but it's just a really important session for all of the risk pool members to sort of set out our needs and things that we would like to focus on in terms of risk management over the coming year, and sort of share best practices about how to mitigate risk and stay out of trouble, so to speak. So it's a good always each year I've learned a lot down there. And so I'll be down there for a couple of days next week.
Great. Thank you, Adam. We'll do council member reports. We'll start with Fred.
Yeah, just a couple of things. On the 5th, I attended Oktoberfest, volunteered at that. I won't steal Pat's thunder, so I'll just leave it at that. 10/7 attended a Marin Transit Board meeting. And then on 10/10, I attended the Guiding Coalition with the Larkspur Corte Madera School District. That was an all-day event, which is, I'm finding it fascinating. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Charles.
I judged the journals and later hosted at the Oktoberfest and picked the crowd favorite was ultimately the winners. It was a couple. It was nice. Thank you, Pat. That's it.
Thank you, Rosa.
October 7th, I attended the RVPA special meeting. Some of the things we were working on was deciding the fate of the subcommittee that was reviewing the cityscape, or actually they were making recommendations for this cityscape report on the future of the RVPA. So it was decided to keep the subcommittee, but to only have them act at the behest of the entire board. It sort of looks like they were leaning toward the subcommittee not doing much for a while. The other thing we voted to pass was the procurement of 8 new LifePak cardiac monitors. Gobsmackingly expensive, but they will allow the paramedics to continue compressions even while the monitor is going. Now they have to stop, let it monitor. And those results go directly to the hospital ahead of the ambulance. There are also some issues with the a lease agreement between the town of Ross Valley RVPA about where the ambulance stays. It was a fascinating meeting. And I was there as the alternate for Fred.
Yeah, I was going to say, thank you, Rosa, for attending.
You're welcome. I hope I didn't start.
Thank you, Rosa. Pat.
Yeah, Oktoberfest was amazing. All of the council members were there. Thank you all for showing up and pitching in. And really a big thank you to the restaurants, Pig in a Pickle, Stefano's, Keto's, Burmatown, and the new butcher moving into the square soon. A lovely man from Argentina who's always wanted to get back into the business that his family was in. So he's leaving wine and coming in to meet. And I just want to say that the people who showed up for Oktoberfest, despite the heat, were the best. There were people who were there because they just couldn't bear not to be there. And the shade there is still shade in Menke Park and the green grass, and there was a cool breeze every once in a while. So we all survived. And I think that kind of, the adversity drew us closer. I don't know. And the only other thing I attended that has really been, I've been thinking a lot about is the Marin Healthy Youth Partnership, where we learned about the real problem now with, they were calling it the whack-a-mole problem, where regardless of how quickly the state can keep up with the new hemp products that are being infused with high amounts of THC and then being sold as gummies or candies, every time they knock one down, another one comes up. So it's really going to behoove all of us to keep an eye, especially when it just came up that the liquor store next door was one of the 4 or 5 in the state that were found to be selling. And so I want to follow up on that and hope we can do something to make sure that a company in our town and right next to town hall really does follow the law. So
Great.
that's all.
Thank you. On October 8th, I attended a Central Marin Sanitation Agency board meeting. On October 9th, we had two subcommittee meetings for Central Marin Sanitation Agency. We had a ad hoc contract development committee meeting and a finance committee meeting. Nothing to report on the finance committee meeting on the draft proposal for the San Rafael San, Central Marin San soft consolidation. I think we're getting closer to the point where we'll have an actual draft discussion that we can sink our teeth into and discuss. We're not quite there yet. On October 10th, I attended a Marin Environmental Housing Collaborative fundraiser at the Homeward Bound facility in Novato. I don't know if anybody else got a chance to attend, but it was really awesome and noteworthy that Marin is now within striking distance of ending veteran homelessness, which is pretty impressive. And B, that facility is run by Homeward Bound, which is the same group that runs our Project Home Key here in Corte Madera. And just as here, they're doing a great job up there in Novato. So it was really great to see their work there. And the last thing I will say is Oktoberfest was indeed a blast. And I know it was a huge team effort that went into making that happen, but I know that Pat was truly instrumental. So I want to thank you. I mean, that was such a success. So great work. Congratulations.
Mayor,
And
can-
thank you.
Can I add something to that, to the council? So one thing I learned today on LinkedIn, there was a new hire at the CSMA that did a whole post on LinkedIn and gave direct thanks to Eli for inspiring him and helping him come to the CSMA. And so I think, that's, to me, that was an important part of leadership, is when you become an attractor for talent, right? And so I just wanted to thank you for your dedication to the CSMA and also for bringing in new fresh blood and getting them excited about supporting the things that you care about. So I just
Thank you, Charles. And I will note that Hayden, that the CMSA intern, lives in Corte Madera. So yeah, good stuff. Alrighty. Well, that concludes our council reports. Any comments on the draft agenda for the next meeting? And if not, we're going to adjourn the town council meeting.